Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. A lot of things going on in the news in the last few days, and I haven't been keeping up with it on here because I've been doing so much. I mean, I'm reading about it. I'm just not making the videos for it. We're doing the, 6.5 mile rucks in 112-degree weather, and doing search and rescue training, and all that kind of stuff. So just some things take precedence over the news because news happens, right? And a lot of it is happening. The United States is strongly urging United States citizens to leave Belarus. They believe that things are heating up there. There's a lot of hostilities. As so far it's just words, but it's between Belarus and Poland and Ukraine. There's this belief that there could be a new invasion through Belarus, maybe whether in Ukraine or Poland, but there's right now all the attention seems to be on Belarus, right? Belarus has said if they have any type of hostilities against them, then they may in fact use a tactical nuke to defend themselves for any type of aggression towards them. So everyone's kind of focused on that right now. Joe Biden is focused on getting some sleep because he was in Hawaii for a few hours because of the victims there and fell asleep. I don't know if you watched any of that. I watched various clips of that whole ordeal of him there, and it was, I mean, we can make fun of it, we can joke, but honestly, it's really sad. It's just absolutely sad. The feebleness of this man, and you can tell he has no clue where he's at, and they're just kind of directing him around, and he just, it's sad. It really is. He looks like many of you have seen with maybe your grandparents or something like that get to this point that they're failing rapidly, especially mentally. And that's who we have as the president. Speaking of Maui, there's still 850 people missing there due to the direct energy fires. And I'm sure that many of those, or at least a good portion of those, will turn up not alive. And that's very, very sad. It's nothing to make light about and joke about because this kind of stuff is happening everywhere. I mean, there's hardly anywhere right now, easily every continent. And I know you say, well, this is the season, it's a wildfire season. Yes, that's true. But if you look at the stuff that's happening, where it's happening, it's in more unusual places. It's fires that just seem to pop out of nowhere and become massive, raging fires. There's countless structures and buildings and factories and recycling plants and all kinds of stuff on fire all over the place. And I could be wrong. I've been known to be wrong a time or two in my life, but I still believe that it is. It's all part of their plan to say, see, the climate change is really bad. It's awful, and that's why we got to give up our rights. I mean, we need all of your money and we need all your liberty so that we can fix climate change, right? That's what I think is going to happen. This is also the 31st anniversary of Ruby Ridge. And some of you may not know what Ruby Ridge is. If you don't, you need to look it up. But it just remembers, I want us all to remember that the United States government will stop at nothing to enforce their rules, even if you haven't technically violated them, and they just assume that you have. I actually had an opportunity a few years back to meet and get to know Randy Weaver a little bit, and kind of heard some of the backstory, and it's an absolutely awful story, but is certainly widely known. And it's just like I said, just to remember that this is what they're capable of. We talk about all these despot governments all over the world and in the past, that what they would do to their citizens. What has this one done to its own citizens? Just thought I'd ask that question. There is something that's happening today that is really big, and you're not going to hear about it on the mainstream media. If you're watching Fox News, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, I don't even know what else, maybe even Newsmax. I don't even know if they're covering it. Brix Nations is having their big summit, And this time around, this big summit is a big deal because they're basically it appears that they have been building their own little infrastructure for a plan, and this is the start of it. Brix is the banking bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And it's growing, it's expanding. There's somewhere between 20 to 40 nations that have either indicated that they want to apply to join, or they have actually submitted an application to join. This is basically every country other than like the West. You know, you take NATO for the most part, and then you have the rest of the world for the most part. I understand that's not exact, is lining up to be part of Brix. And Brix is determined to be a major competitor for G7, the G7 countries and the West. Now, some of you are going to say, well, China's economy isn't doing any better than ours. And, you know, you're right. I don't doubt that. But they're also this Brix block that we're speaking of is the dominant force for production and resources on this planet. It really is. You know, the vast majority of oil and gold and rare earth minerals are all going to be held in the Brix nations. The vast majority of the manufacturing on the planet is going to be Brix. A big portion of food production is Brix. And while their GDP collectively is not as high as the G7, it's not that far behind. And there are new nations constantly joining in. And some of the biggest reasons why this is important is because they're saying that they're going to do their own currency thing. They're walking away from the dollar. They've already agreed to do cross-border trading between the groups, between the nations in the group, using currency other than the U.S. dollar, and they're pushing for the Indian rupee and the Brazilian currency. And there's lots and lots of talk that a central bank digital currency that is gold-backed will come out of Brix, and that will, you know, be one of the new dominating currencies on the planet. And the reason why this is important is because, well, you already know. You should know this answer, all right? I'm going to tell you, at least my opinion, but you should know this answer. The reason why it's important is because, number one, the U.S. dollar is already showing lots of signs of failing. I mean, if you listen, if you care at all, some of you don't, kind of like me, but if you care what Donald Trump says, he just said the other day that the U.S. dollar is losing its dominance. It's dying. And while it's not a fast-tracked collapse of the U.S. dollar's dominance, we are seeing it happen. Even Janet Yellen, several months back with the Treasury Department, did not deny that it would happen. She said that, well, it would be a slower process for it to happen, which right there is an indication itself. She didn't say, oh, no, the U.S. dollar will never lose its dominance. It will always reign supreme. No, she said, well, it will happen, but, over time, and it could take decades and stuff. Just that admission right there alone says a lot. We are watching our currency fail. Okay, along with the amount of debt that this nation has incurred, the printing of the dollar that's devaluating the dollar, this also devalues the dollar. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that we have trillions of dollars outside of this country. And when these countries stop using U.S. dollars, they're sending that currency back to the United States. And for us here at home, the value of our currency, it would be like the Federal Reserve printing $1 trillion or $2 in currency like that. It would cause our dollars to inflate even more, maybe even potentially hyperinflate. And so the purchasing power of your dollar is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's growing more rapidly because of this Brix. We're no longer being viewed as the dominating power on this planet. We're looked at as a power that maybe is equal to as a few others, but those others are gaining in power and we are retracting in power. And so this is I think history will look back as this is be a momentous day in history. We're watching the new powers of the world rise up, and we're watching the old guard, the United States and the West, start to lose its dominance and lose its its primacy on the planet. And for you watching this, that's a serious thing. That's an absolute serious thing. So much of the prosperity that we have enjoyed as American citizens has been because we've been the dominating nation for a century. The whole world has revered us and feared us. They've accepted our currency everywhere. There's hardly a place on the planet that you can't go and use American dollars. And it has a much higher purchasing power because of that. A lot of the wonderful life that we live in the United States is because of the currency and just the overall dominance of the United States. That alone being lost is going to change our world here at home. But then you add to that the, almost $6 billion a day increase in debt that the country's going into, all of the housing crisis, something like housing right now is about 40 to 45% higher than it was 3 years ago. 75% of Americans can't even afford the houses that's on the market. Just the bond market is on the verge of complete collapse. There's a lot of worries out there. These spectators are really concerned that we're about to see a major collapse in the bond market. And I know that some of you may not get into that, and I don't either, but I just try to learn as much as I can. We talk about the stock market. People talk about the stock market. The stock market is a drop in the bucket compared to the bond market. And there's so many predictions out there that the bond market is about ready to do some really bad things. Any one of these things and several others that I'm not talking about are bad. But when you put them all together, it's really, really, really bad. And economically, our financial status as a nation and as individuals, $17-18 trillion in personal debt in the United States. It's just, we can't even wrap our heads around this. Any one of these things are bad and could mean a very bad road up ahead of us. But we're watching multiple things happen, multiple things line up. And then you take all those multiple things in the financial world and you put them with, the social degradation. And then you put them with the international conflict of potential World War III with Russia, potential World War III with China. Very, very likely things that are going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And then we have all this other stuff creeping up of another pandemic and a climate emergency. We're watching a chaotic world play out right before our eyes, and it's becoming more and more chaotic. Now, you and I probably agree on the fact that most of this is really orchestrated. But that doesn't lessen the importance of it just because it's orchestrated. Yes, we can debate all the time about, how the wildfire started or who actually did this or who actually sunk that ship or, that's up for debate and that's fine. But regardless of why it's happening and how it's happening, the fact is that it is happening. And it's all signs that we're watching everything collapse. We're watching things get rapidly worse for us. That's why we need to be getting ready. You should be out there stocking up on food, like right now. I would advise people to, over the period of the next 3 to 4 weeks, make it a strong point to stock up on some food. Whether it's going and buying just bags of rice and putting it in buckets, canned food, food online. There's different places running sales I've seen, whether it's the freeze-dried food or just foods from Amazon, whatever it is, you need to be stocking up on some food. There's other things you should be stocking up on. Bullets, yes, that's something you should stock up on. All medical stuff, should be stocking up on medical stuff. But here's the thing, if you have all this stuff and you don't know how to use it, or you're not physically able to endure the hardships so that you can survive, that's a problem. So you need to be stocking up on your own health, meaning improving your own health. Whatever it takes to improve your health, whether it's losing weight or just getting in shape or trying to overcome this hurdle of some kind of medical problem. Not all, I'm not a doctor, not all medical problems can be solved through health and diet and supplements, but a lot can. So trying to figure out if you can do that. These are important things because the world is rapidly changing, and I'm telling you, it's not going to be a good place for us here in the next coming months or years. So you need to be getting ready. Most importantly, you need to be getting your heart ready. your heart, your mind, so that you can mentally handle what's coming, and that your soul can handle the darkness and the evilness that's being thrown at us. It's time to get your houses in order, folks. And I mean it. You need to be getting ready physically, mentally, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Folks, we are living in uncertain times where chaos seems to be around every corner. With wars and rumors of wars, economic collapse, pandemics, and more, we should strive daily to become more prepared mentally, physically, and of course spiritually. Please check out My Patriot Supply for all your preparedness needs. My Patriot Supply offers Ready Hour food, Alexa Pure water filters, and many other emergency and survival products. My Patriot Supply is an American-owned company, run by Americans producing American-made food. Emergency food from My Patriot Supply has a 25-plus year shelf life. It's simple to fix and delicious to eat. With My Patriot Supply, you can sleep at ease at night, knowing that you and your family have the emergency food to last through the coming times. To find out more, click on the link in the description below or go to preparewithtravis.com.